The convergence that we've seen on our phone is similar to the convergence that we've seen in our threat environment. Some threats always overlap. So there's always been an overlap, for example, between organised crime and the drug trade. But many areas of home affairs we used to look at and think about back in 1997 as not being overlaying or converging in any way. We would have largely separate conversations about terrorism, about foreign interference, about espionage, about child exploitation, people smuggling, human trafficking, cybercrime or money laundering. They were all very much, there might be occasional overlap, but you could have a sensible conversation on each one in isolation. That is no longer the threat environment in Australia. The Dural Caravan investigation of that involved overlaying work between the Australian Federal Police, ASIO, the New South Wales Police, and the New South Wales Crime Commission. The Adass Israel Synagogue ultimately involved the intersection of a whole lot of principles that we had in general conversation not seen overlaying with each other before. Characteristics that we would previously associate with terrorism, with foreign interference, with community violence, with social cohesion and with organised crime. All of those converging and overlaying with each other. Organisations' international threats like Scattered Spider see a merging of cyber with artificial intelligence, with child exploitation, with money laundering. The illegal tobacco trade involves cooperative work between Border Force, the Federal Police, the Criminal Intelligence Commission, AUSTRAC, as well as our state enforcement authorities. So for each of the different challenges now, this concept, just as we saw with our phones, of convergence is what we have as a threat. So when we have a convergence of threats, we need to have a convergence of protection. And there are 4 key elements that have characterised how we have now set up the Home Affairs portfolio. The first, and this was done as soon as we came to office, was to bring cybersecurity squarely within the Home Affairs portfolio. Cybersecurity had had a history of moving around different parts, sometimes being in communications, moving in and out of cabinet at different points in time. Cybersecurity and cyber attacks now intersect with almost every one of the examples that I have gone through, and it belongs in Home Affairs. Secondly, the agencies, which had been tested in different parts and different portfolios, have now moved back with a home in Home Affairs. So obviously the Australian Federal Police, ASIO, the Criminal Intelligence Commission, AUSTRAC, and by virtue of the Criminal Intelligence Commission coming in, the Institute of Criminology comes with that as well because of the way that that's structured. The third thing is keeping a total portfolio of national security and immigration within the same department. Now, doing that at the time that it happened was quite controversial because there is a legitimate argument that we need to make sure we don't get to a point where we are constantly securitising all of the language about immigration and multiculturalism. That's not good for social cohesion and it's not accurate about what we do. But it's also true that while not everything in national security is about immigration and not everything in immigration is about national security, there is an overlap between the two where there is a huge advantage in having them in the same portfolio. And if you were to try to separate them, where would you put Border Force, which does both immigration compliance and does all the compliance of goods at the border and critical to interception of a whole lot of illegal products coming into Australia as well? So the logic of keeping that together was thought about and decided that there was an advantage in making sure that we were delivering what the Australian people want in that third element of keeping national security and immigration in the same portfolio. And then the fourth thing was to say, but how do we send the message of making sure that we are not securitising the conversation about immigration and multicultural affairs? And for that reason, we established the Office of Multicultural Affairs, which has been up and running now for a few months and gives a direct interface which makes sure that when we engage with communities throughout Australia, we're engaging quite clearly through a celebration of the value of modern Australia and respect for modern Australia, rather than every conversation being questioned, is this within a security frame or is it not? So that effectively is what we've done with the portfolio.